Hi there folks, Borislav247 here with another Days Gone video from my sub-challenges series, where I show one specific challenge and break down all the sub-challenges that lie within it. And on this video, it's the HOG WILD challenge that gets my full attention. Now, throughout all my time playing these challenges, I've never really taken the time to go into detail about the sub-challenges that need to be completed. Well, all that is going to change, as I intend on showing all 12 challenges with this video series and then breaking down and showing every sub-challenge completed in as easy a way as possible. And trust me folks, a lot of these sub-challenges can be simplified. Now, as you can all see on screen, this is the first challenge that I am attempting. So to start with, I have no help in the way of rings, and I have no help in the way of patch perks from any of the other challenges. And I want to show this challenge being taken care of like this for a very good reason. And the reason is this: you simply do not require them. Because when you do know exactly what is required and do these sub-challenges in the way that I do them, they're really not that difficult. But the first thing I need to do is to address the information that is currently on screen, because the sub-challenge requirements that are being shown there are for a bronze level. Now, throughout this series, all I am interested in is the gold requirements for these sub-challenges. So let's just change this now and see exactly what is required for the golds. Okay, now that the gold requirements are on screen, I'm going to run through these sub-challenges and explain exactly what they are. And 3 of them, in all fairness, are fairly self-explanatory. But the sub-challenge called Won't Stop does require a bit of explaining. So, the first one, which is called Hang Time, simply requires you to get 20 seconds of airtime. Given the amount of jumps that are available on this challenge, this one really isn't too bad to complete at all, folks. Now, the second sub-challenge is called Can't Stop, and this requires you to boost for a total of 60 seconds over the course of one run. Now, this one does sound like a bit of a tall order, but when you see how I do it, it's not quite as bad as it first appears. The third sub-challenge is called Drive By, and this requires you to get 10 freaker kills while on the bike. Now, it's worth noting that it doesn't matter in the slightest whether you take them out by shooting them or whether you take them out by driving over them. As long as you get 10 freaker kills, it's all good. And given that there are a ridiculous amount of freakers on this challenge, this one again does not take long to complete. Now, the last sub-challenge, which is called Won't Stop, is possibly one of the most bizarre and certainly one of the most annoying sub-challenges that you're ever likely to take on. And the description for this sub-challenge doesn't exactly help, because it simply says, finish within 2 seconds or less. Now, what this sub-challenge basically consists of is this. At the very start of the challenge, you will see a timer on the top right-hand side of the screen that says 20 seconds. The only way to ensure that that does not start to drop is by making sure that you keep a hold of the accelerator button right from the very start and do not let go of it. And you also have to make sure that you do not crash the bike, because if you do let go of the accelerator or crash the bike, you will see that timer start to come down. And in order to get a gold score on this sub-challenge, you basically have to make sure that that timer does not fall below 17 seconds. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, well, wait a minute, I can see on screen it says 2 seconds. Well, this particular sub-challenge does give you a little bit of leeway. You can take slightly over 2 seconds. It can be 2.5 seconds, it can be 2 3/4 seconds. As long as it is not over 3 seconds, you will get a gold on this. So, now that they're all explained, let's get to the setup page. Now, as I mentioned before, you don't actually require any rings to get the job done on any of these sub-challenges, but if you do wish to use rings and you have the luxury of credits and rep levels, these are the 2 I recommend. They are both designed to protect the bike. The first is Snake, where drifting on your bike repairs it, and the second is Tire, where your bike damage is reduced while boosting. Now, given that the first one that I'm going to show is hang time and it's the most brutal on the bike, you will see just how little these are required. So let's do this. Right then, on to the first sub-challenge, which is hang time, and this requires you to get 20 seconds of air time. Now, the first piece of advice I can give is this: avoid that ramp there on the left like the plague, because that ramp is designed to get you into trouble, as are the next set of ramps. You're really just looking to ignore these ones because the much safer and easier ramps are coming later on in this challenge. So from here, I'm looking to take this route, and this is the route you will have to take every time because there is only one way of doing this particular challenge. But here is the first ramp that I always go for. You have a fantastic landing area there and you get a guaranteed 2 seconds of airtime. In fact, it's very close to 3. Normally at this next section here, when I go over this section here, yep, that will normally get me an extra second. And then you're looking to take this ramp here, either straight over it or even favour slightly to the left will do you no harm at all. After this, you're following this route here. You have to take this particular way just to set yourself up for the next set of ramps. Now after this next one here, either straight across it or favour it slightly to the right. This next ramp, again, a very nice one, a lot of airtime on this one. Either favour it to the centre of the ramp or slightly to the left. And as you can see, already I have got 14 seconds of airtime. And from here, the job is just about done. I've got this one here as well. You don't need too much speed over that one or you are on risk of hitting that car. That ramp that I've just taken there, you don't actually have to take it. I would recommend you leave that one and just get the job done with this one. Even though I already have the 20 seconds of airtime in place. And that is it. If you're still struggling, you can go a little bit further along. There is another jump that you can take at the very end, but you have so many options, really it's not an issue getting the job done. So the last thing I'm basically doing here is just letting the time run out because that will finish the challenge. And there we go, a job well done. And bronze score to go with that. Very nice. Right then, the next sub-challenge is going to be drive-by, but before I take that on, I'm just going to change the character to Ricky because I always prefer using one of the female characters. So let's do this. Right then, on to the next sub-challenge, which is drive-by, and this requires you to get 10 freaker kills. And it doesn't matter whether you shoot them or whether you run them over. As long as you get the 10 kills, it is all good. Now, the first 3 freakers that I'm looking to take out are just in this section here. Now, I'm looking to take them all out with gunplay for a good reason. When I completed the first sub-challenge, I got a bronze score, which I did mention. What I didn't mention was that you actually get a patch perk with this particular challenge, and the patch perk just happens to be extra accuracy when shooting from the bike. And for a bronze score, it is a whopping 20% extra accuracy when shooting from the bike. If you happen to get a silver score on this challenge, that increases to 40%, and if you get a gold, that increases to a whopping 60%, which makes this patch perk that you get from this challenge one of the best in the entire game. It really is that good. And of course, with it applying to the main Days Gone game, it is so handy to have. Now, the last freakers that I need to take out are right here. There's 4 of them, I only require 3, but they are basically lined up so well there. They've just made an easy job even easier. So at this point, I'm just making sure to stop the bike, and that will start the counter going down, or the clock going down on the top right there. Once that reaches 0, that is it, this challenge is over, but the job is done. Those 10 freaker kills are done and dusted. Yep, very nice. Yep, another bronze score, but it's all good. Right then, the next sub-challenge I am going to take on is called Can't Stop, but before I take on this challenge, I just want to go over to the patch perk that I have currently unlocked, just to show you all exactly what it is. I did mention in the previous sub-challenge, and that's it right there, even for a bronze score, 20% bike aim accuracy. But anyways, on to the next sub-challenge. Right, and the next sub-challenge is possibly the trickiest of the four, and it's called Can't Stop. This requires you to get 60 seconds of boost time, and right from the start I'm keeping the boost button pressed. I'm looking to go past the far left hand side of the first arch, then the far right hand side of the second, and I am just basically getting as much boost time as I possibly can on that section there. Stop when I get down to here. I'm just looking to get past the arch here, get myself set up, and then again I'm away. I basically like to do it on these sections because they are surprisingly straight once you know the routes. So at this point here, I'm now looking to just wait until I have a nice line here, and now I'm going for it again, because this is another quite long straight section. And from here again, I've got myself set up, so I'm going to go for it with the boost again. Now, I know this might be quite problematic for a lot of people because the course at times for people can be hard enough, let alone when you're actually adding extra speed to it. But trust me, there is an area on this particular challenge where it can be simplified if you are struggling to get all of the boost time that you need. And I'm actually coming up to this area very soon. So at that point I will actually cut this run short and go to the failsafe that I basically have in place should you be struggling to get the boost time that you need. And it is basically at this section right here, because all of a sudden now you have a very long straight section indeed, with very little in the way of problems. So at the moment I'm doing very well, but I'm going to cut away from this right now. And here we go. Here is a scenario that a lot of people might face. You're at this area here, and at this point you're basically struggling in terms of getting the 60 seconds of boost required. And it is basically just using this area here, because apart from one section which is a little bit on the narrow side, it really is, it's very safe. So from here we go. I can start boosting away, and when you're doing it here, because you don't have the luxury of the arches that you're going through, it will simply be 4 seconds every time, because the one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is every time you pass through an archway, you basically reset the booster that is built into this bike. And you can actually see just to the left of the minimap at the bottom right of the screen, just below the fuel indicator, you will actually see a line, and every time that you use the boost you will see that line start to rise. And of course when it gets to the top, that's it, there is a cooldown period with the booster and you have to wait. Now I'm being able to use the boost here all of a sudden just basically because I actually had an archway that I was able to pass through, and any archway that you do pass through actually resets the boost for you. And that basically explains why at the very beginning of the run, when I was getting some very prolonged periods where I was getting up to 10 seconds at a time, basically because I was passing through an archway, it was resetting the boost for me, so I had more to use and I could keep the boost going for longer. But this failsafe option here isn't about all-out speed, this is about safety. If you are struggling and you still need the last of the boost, this is the way to do it. And there we go. That is job done here, but anyways, back to the original first run. And at the moment I am doing very well indeed on this one. Again, at this point here, there is a nice straight section which I'm going to use. That gets me to 57 seconds nicely, and I know I'll get the last 3 seconds that I require here. Because as soon as I pass through that arch, I'm just going for it. I hold the boost button down, and there we go. And would you Adam and Eve it? Okay, I've just bounced over to the other side of the fence line here, but it's all good. I'm just going to let the freakers come over, and they might actually finish this challenge a tad quicker for me. At the end of the day, it's all about the Can't Stop sub-challenge, and I have it in place, so There we go. Job done. Okay, and with that I actually have a silver score, so although it won't have any impact on the next sub-challenge, the accuracy increase now when shooting from the bike is now up to 40%, but again, it's all about the sub-challenge. Oh, and a new rep level for my character. Right then, just one sub-challenge left to take on, which of course is Won't Stop. But before I do take on this particular sub-challenge, I'm just going to take the time to apply the two rings that if I did have the luxury of being able to choose at the start, I would pick, and that is Snake, and the other one is Tire. These basically just give you protection for the bike, which of course you don't really badly need. I've already completed the two toughest ones which do the most damage to the bike, so anyways, let's do this. Right then, on to the last sub-challenge, which is Won't Stop. This is the one that simply requires you to get to the end of this challenge without the timer on the top right hand side of the screen dropping below 17 seconds. That is basically the magic number. So as long as it is 17.01 or higher, you're all good. Now on this particular run, I am not using the boost in any way, shape or form. I want as much control over the bike as possible, and that is basically achieved by using the drift button for your brake effectively. It doesn't slow you down completely, but it's enough to get the job done. And you will also notice that I am avoiding a lot of the jumps when I have the option to. There is a couple in particular that are quite lengthy in terms of the amount of airtime. I am looking to basically not take them, so I do very little damage to the bike. Off that section, I always like to go a tad to the left. It just sets you up nicely with that line for heading through that tree area. And then again, I'm looking for a bit of control with the drift button here just to get through this section. I do like to take those two ramps there. They just line you up very nicely for the next arch. And again here, I'm actually very close to that fence, but I got away with it. From here, I avoid that basic jump there. Because it can be quite problematic at times if you get the landing wrong. I'm simply not going to risk it here. This one I don't have any choice for, but a nice big landing area. And then from here, the last part that is likely to do any sort of damage to me is the very end section. This part here, nice and easy because it's very straight, and I'm basically looking when I pass this arch here to try and get a nice straight line right there, and there we go. You don't have to worry about those cars. Once you just get set up with that particular line, it's all good. Now at the top here, I just apply a drift nice and early, and I use the sandbag wall there just as a little bit of a buffer in order to get the bike stopped safely. But I could, and this is worth noting, I could have actually applied the brakes there, because as long as you don't go under the 17 seconds, you will get the job done. Now, I'm actually going to show that on the last run because I don't have a gold score yet, so this needs to be remedied. Although it's all about the sub-challenges, I do like to show how a gold is taken care of, so let's do this. Right then, on to the last run that I'll be showing on HOG WILD, and this is all about getting a gold score. Now, in order to get this done, I am only going to be focusing on two of the sub-challenges, which I want completed to a gold standard, because if I get these two in place, a gold score is assured. Now the first one will probably come as a fairly obvious one when you're watching this video here, and it's basically boosting. I want to get the 60 seconds of boosting in place. If I do that, and then make sure that the timer on the top right does not fall below 17 seconds, which is the Won't Stop sub-challenge, that will get me a gold score. So it's just all about basically getting this run taken care of nice and smoothly. So far so good. I'm looking again to go left off that particular jump. Just sets me up perfectly for this section here going through the trees. And from here, a bit of control using the drift. And once I have the bike straightened out here, and again, more boosting. yeah, also makes this challenge a bit quicker to complete when you're doing it when you're going full on with the boosts. But of course I am avoiding any of the jumps that I don't have to make. There is a couple especially that you'll have seen on this run that I avoid like the plague, but I'm very close to the end now, so it's just a case of no stupid mistakes. And I will take the time at the very end of this run to show that that clock can actually fall below 18 seconds, but you can still get a gold on the Won't Stop sub-challenge. Because this is one that I haven't actually shown yet effectively in place. So get up here, and now I'm looking, here we go, I'm going to hit the brakes. Yep, there we go, I'm below 18 seconds, and you'd think, okay, well, that should get a silver, but it won't. It will get a gold. There we go, 50,000 for the bonus for crossing the line with that one in place, and there we go, that is the gold score done and dusted. And there we go, folks, that brings us to the very end of this video, and just before I go, I'll show the fruits of my labour here. That is what you get when you have a gold score in place for this challenge, and it is 60% bike aim accuracy. It is huge. And there we go. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the video.